I spent a lot of time in the business that we work in the training business, where I was trying to, stage videos and create campaigns and create ads and images that I thought would really hook on the people that I was the ideal customer. But it was only until I was doing a training session and then my clients started to film the session that I was doing that I would then upload those pieces of content, and those would just completely blow up.
Hey there, marketing enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Brand Behavior Podcast, where we turn marketing strategies into actionable magic. I'm Juntae DeLane, and today we're diving into something that's been absolutely lighting up the social media world. That's viral marketing campaigns. It's wild how some campaigns just explode overnight, right? Like, who could have missed the Barbie and Oppenheimer phenomenon in 2023? It wasn't just a movie release, it was like a masterclass in viral marketing. Or how about the McDonald's Grimace birthday shake campaign that took over TikTok? These weren't just lucky breaks. They were carefully crafted viral moments. And today, we've got an amazing lineup of experts who are going to help us decode what makes content go viral. So whether you're running a small business or managing a major brand, we're going to break down the secret sauce behind these viral sensations. From Dove's powerful Turn Your Back campaign to Dunkin's brilliant partnership with Ben Affleck. We're going to cover it all. And here's the best part. We're not only just talking about theory, but we're diving into real, actionable strategies that you can start using tomorrow. So grab your favorite beverage. I've got my tea right here. Get comfortable, and let's unpack the science and art of going viral together. But before we jump in, I've got to know, which viral campaigns from this year was your favorite? Drop it in the comments section, and let's get the conversation started. All right. I'm excited to introduce to you our blockbuster rock star. Let me start over here. I'm excited to introduce to you our rock star panel today. First up, we've got Marcus Bird in the house. Marcus, my friend, you're basically the wizard behind some amazing viral campaigns that we've probably seen lately. Marcus, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk about what's on everybody's social media feeds and
Yeah.
what you talk about with your friends and significant others every night before you go to bed.
Awesome. And next, please welcome Deborah Shapiro. Deborah isn't just a storytelling expert. She's a person that brands call when they need their message to really hit home. Deborah, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great
Awesome.
talking about how brands can talk like people.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And rounding out our powerhouse panel is Jonathan Guerrero. Jonathan's the guy who can look at a spreadsheet and tell you exactly why something's about to blow up online. Jonathan, how you doing?
I'm great, Juntae. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, man. All right, so check this out. Something really incredible happened last week. It really sums up or really sets our conversation up for today. And that's a tiny coffee shop in Seattle, just a mom and pop place, nothing fancy. They were struggling to keep the lights on, but then their barista posted a 15-second video of their signature upside down latte on TikTok. And guys, what happened next was insane. The video hit 2 million views in 24 hours. Now they've got lines out the door. They're shipping their beads nationwide. And get this, they haven't spent a single dollar on traditional advertising. But here's the thing, and this is what we're really diving into today. It wasn't luck. Right? There's this perfect storm of authenticity and timing and smart strategy is really fueling all of these campaigns. And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. How do you create these viral moments for your brand? And whether you're a tiny coffee shop or a major corporation, what are the tools and tactics and tricks that you need in order to go viral, right? And of course, who doesn't want their content to catch fire? But the question is, how do you actually make it happen? And again, that's exactly what we're going to unpack with our amazing guest today. But before we dive in, though, I've got to ask our panel, what was your first reaction when you see these viral stories on social media, whether it's like the coffee shop or any other videos blow up? Marcus, let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, brands and my background as a director of marketing, your CEO is like, I want to go viral. Let's go viral. Organic social is the cheapest way for you to make an impact and to advertise and accelerate customer acquisition. And so obviously going viral is a great thing. I've had the pleasure of going semi-viral twice. One of them was similar to the latte situation. We were able to invite a burgoing influencer in. His name is Keith Lee. Some people may have heard of him. And in one of his earlier videos was able to link him up with former boss of mine, Kevin Hart. And he tried Kevin Hart's vegan sandwich and was blown away. And again, this guy is known for reviewing food. And so he eats a lot of meat. And when he ate this entirely plant-based sandwich, and you could see the steam, his brain going, wait, is this not chicken? This isn't real meat. You could tell that what was going to happen was going to be absolutely stupendous. Video went viral, I think, an hour, 2 hours after you recorded it. We're talking tens of millions of views, hundreds of millions of impressions. And so this is kind of the cycle that I like to think about, which is there's organic social, and that really aids consumer feedback, which then relays into press, which then gets more consumers. And so, right, press is kind of like the secret weapon in why things go viral and how they go viral. And so that's an example of a brand, trying, right? Putting together a megastar with, frankly, another burgoing megastar who has a platform, who has an audience, and something that's very in line with their content. Now, let's juxtapose that with something like Hawk Tuah, right? Another viral phenomenon that we all know, where they literally interviewed this woman on the street. She has no brand at the time. She said something a little crazy, a little out there, and no press, right? Entirely fueled by people talking about it, people saying to their friends, hey, have you seen this? And then she's able to launch her own podcast and her own brand in that way. And so two very different examples of virality and kind of, hope that gives you some insight into how these things happen.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think the underlying thread there is storytelling, right? And I think that's ultimately the juiciest sort of part of viral marketing. And it seems like everyone now is talking about storytelling this, storytelling that. But what does it really mean in 2025, right? I mean, we are not just sitting at campfire here. We're trying to stop people from scrolling past our content, right? And let's be real, the attention spans are obviously getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and the game essentially has completely changed, right? So Deborah, when looking at a brand story, how do you know which parts are going to make people stop scrolling and actually share? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Well, the secret sauce is understanding the target audience of the brand, right? Like what it is that the audience is looking for and what they want to see. So when you're building the story and you're talking the story, you already sort of have the product. The product is the bit of the story that the other audience wants to see. So you build a story around what the audience wants. So one of the things that we do, and we have a saying in my company that says brands are people too. So we create a brand voice, we create a brand intelligence, a soul, so you sort of understand what the brand is, so that it's not that you're trying to be authentic, it's that you are authentic, and then you find your people. So you need to ask yourself, not, oh, what's going to make me viral? What's going to make people talk about me? It's going to be like, what is going to make my people want to show me to somebody else, right? So what is my person? What is my audience excited about? Let me give them that so they can brag about that to their friends. So stop. One of the biggest mistakes when somebody wants to go viral is they're like, what's going to make me go viral? To identify the point of the story is just to know your audience. What does your audience want? And then you create something around that, and then it's so easy for them to share. And then that's the part of the story that goes viral. So it's not like I saw something and that's going to go viral. When that happens, if the accident, like what Marcus was just talking about, how something accidentally, she stumbled upon something that somebody already wanted. And when they said it and they're like, can you believe she said this? You've got to see this. That's what made it viral. But the other example where they want, like some of you were saying earlier, that they carefully crafted going viral, it's really understanding what your audience wants to see.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. All right, so it seems like the through line here is authenticity. I mean, that's like the main focus of a lot of things going viral. It's almost like if you're almost overly authentic, then it really becomes viral because I think people start to appreciate that. But Jonathan, I know this is something that you know a little bit about when trying to create a brand voice that is walking the fine line between being truly authentic, but also still being entertaining enough to go viral. Give me some insight on that.
Yeah, so a little bit about what Marcus said and Deborah said on the authenticity front. I spent a lot of time in the business that we work in the training business, where I was trying to, stage videos and create campaigns and create ads and images that I thought would really hook on the people that I was the ideal customer. But it was only until I was doing a training session and then my clients started to film the session that I was doing that I would then upload those pieces of content, and those would just completely blow up. They went mini viral, but it was definitely, I drew on that and I said to myself, okay, this is the kind of content that people want to see. They want to see what's actually happening and they want to experience it before they get to know me or sign on with me. So it was really insightful to kind of take a step back and be humbled by the fact that putting out authentic content from my client base was better than anything I could muster up in my head. So it was really insightful in how I move forward.
Yeah, so I'm hearing you basically use data, right? The analytics behind the videos. Compared apples to apples, if you will, when you focus on, okay, these are videos that my company is creating, and these are the videos that we're just basically sharing from our clients, and those videos seem to catch traction. Is that what you're saying there?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Anything that we put together, be it a flyer or any kind of video that we curate, it just would never perform as well as collaboration posts with local businesses, videos that have been filmed by, like I said, clients who have filmed me training their athletes or coaches training their teams. People want to see what's actually happening. When you drop your ego and you go into it with, okay, let's just show them the raw truth of what we're all about. People really want to see that. They latch onto that.
Yeah. And this is great because it reminds me of many stories that I recall about brands that have, spent all this money on creating all the content, hoping and wishing that it goes viral. But then you have those simple behind the scenes shots that really catch fire. Right. And I think to your point, is not enough attention that's paid toward those very authentic, behind the scenes, unpolished, unscripted type of content. And I know, Marcus, you've worked a lot in the content space as well. Have you noticed the same type of trend in terms of was actually working, what's catching traction on social?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think in terms of user generated content, UGC is a big buzzword. And so UGC is when consumers make content, right? And so you can repost it as the brand, but I like to think about it like third party verification. Yeah, you own a coffee shop, you tell me the coffee's good, but when my friend tells me, hey, this coffee is good, they're unbiased. They don't have a reason to plug this if they didn't think that it was really good and that I would enjoy it. And so I think that sights into our psyche. We're so used now to seeing things be so polished, right? And so to your point, and to Jonathan's point, when I see something that's too polished, I'm like, yeah, okay, they staged this clearly. Whereas when I'm like, oh wait, they're recording it on accident, like kind of, it's got the sneaky, like, oh wait, they didn't mean for this to be recorded. That to me, it says, oh, this is an authentic experience that I'm receiving. And so I think to your point, like that is what people want to see. And so even as the brand, I instruct people to make what I call like professional UGC. And so sometimes that's as simple as instead of taking a Canon or a DSLR, like you're taking it with your phone so that it looks like this could be anybody that takes this picture.
Yeah. And that, what immediately came to mind when you were talking about how people are used to, or would rather, would prefer unpolished content, unpolished engagements, is really the political environment. Now, I don't want to go there, but I think there's some parallels between that, right, with regard to polished, unpolished, so on and so forth, what people are used to, what people are expecting, and so on, regardless of whatever side of the aisle you sit on. I think from a marketing perspective, you have to consider, how votes go in terms of having a good understanding of some consumer behavior in the marketplace, right? So there's some cues to take heed to from that stance. But Deborah, I know that when we look at telling a story, creating content around that story, identifying how it could potentially go viral. I'm wondering what level of engagement would you say would categorize a piece of content that actually has gone viral?
It's the shareability. Sometimes people they want to say the views, but I tend to try to look at the shares because the way you get the views is how many times it's been reposted or been recommended. Like we said, I think all of us are saying that advocacy is the key here. The way that you get somebody to try a product, the way that you get somebody to see something is identifying who, in a sense, is your subliminal influencer. I used to in the grocery business where we used to call the subliminal influencer the kid in the shopping cart who wants to go to the store where the cookie is, right? So it's like, Mom, I want to go to that store because there's a cookie, right? And so you end up going to that store because your kid's pacified with a cookie. So the idea is the viral content is the cookie, but it is the person that wants to go in and get it. Like, who is your subliminal influence? Who is your biggest fan? Who is somebody that is going to share it? So to identify if a piece of content is gone viral, I look at how many people are recommending it out there and why and what they're saying when they're recommending. If you look at what they're saying when they're recommending, you understand what it is that sort of made them want to share it, and that was the token that made it go viral in a sense.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. It's like a lot of times, people say you'll go to a client and they'll be like, it has to be organic. No paid media. You need to make this go organic. And people are afraid of tipping the snowball with a little bit of like paid media. What you'll find, though, is that while the piece of content that goes viral is not normally the one that is a paid, sponsored, post of any point, it's normally from brands who also do paid media. One of the ways to ensure that you stay relevant and potentially go viral in social media platforms is understanding what is important to that social media platform. The algorithms will naturally push brands that don't advertise with them down lower, unfortunately. So even your organic content doesn't get seen because you haven't placed an ad with them. So sometimes doing ads just allows your organic content to be seen more broadly, and then one of your organic items, which are truly more authentic than your promoted posts, get picked up and go viral. So it's part of that larger strategy that you were talking about where you sort of have to make sure you're playing in all the different fields.
Oh man, yeah, I'm over here doing my spoken word finger snaps as I was listening to you because you were dropping some gems there. You're absolutely right. I agree 100%. You ultimately have to overlay a layer of paid on top of your organic. And if you understand social business, to your point, Deborah, their social networks are in business to drive revenue. And part of that is through their ad platforms, right? And so when you go viral, I mean, are you really going viral as much as you possibly can? And my answer is probably no. Like, even if something goes viral, you probably could have reached even more people, but you were more than likely were suppressed by the social networks because they want you to pay, right? And so I think the best strategy there is to focus on creating great organic content. And then when you find an outlier, that one that really goes viral, then you place some amplification and some paid media spin behind that viral piece, right? And that, I think, is a formula that most social networks want all the users to follow. Would you all agree?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Do you remember when Facebook Live was launched? Like, anybody, you would have been your neighbor on her rocking chair, did a Facebook Live, and like Facebook or Meta now, but Facebook at the time was like, look at the grandma, because that was what was important to them. They had just launched Facebook Live. Anybody who did a Facebook Live went viral. So if you start paying attention to what the different channels are doing and what they're trying to launch and be an early adapter, they're going to promote you. And then you don't even have to pay for it. But then you might not even get that notice if you haven't done that paid ad with them in the past. And they're like, oh, this is a person that I can trust. If I promote, they're going to do an ad with me later. So those types of things.
I think what Deborah's talking about is, in some ways, you got to play the game, And so, right, Meta's just come out with trial reels, which is a way for you to create content and show it to people that are not your followers. And what Jonathan was saying is, look, I'm looking at the data, I'm looking at what's performing. And then, to bring that into what Juntae's saying, you put money behind those things, the things that are best performing. And that's just learning, right? I think where the science and art of virality for me get really nice is when you're able to pair somebody that's a great storyteller, somebody with the lens of kind of a creative director, with somebody with social know-how who's like, yeah, but these are the three hooks that we should use, right? Because social is prioritizing whether people stay for the first 3 seconds. So yeah, you can have a great story and your video could be 2 minutes long, but if they don't stay past that first 3 seconds, you're gone. Your story is not going to catch fire. And so for me, it's that kind of blend of art and science that really is when things catch fire.
And that, like what Coors recently just did with their case of the Mondays, right? At the very beginning, we all believed, myself included, that this entire idea came because one social media manager accidentally did a spelling error in one of their social posts. And they apologized for it and said, oh, we had a case of the Mondays because they did it on a Monday. And then they created an entire campaign where they made cases of beer called the Mondays, and we all have a case of the Mondays. By the time they made their Super Bowl commercial, I'm like, okay, this was planned. Like, this was a very carefully curated campaign where they started with a typo because they knew that everybody likes to point out when big brands do typos. So they knew their audience. They understood the audience. I can get people to talk about me if I make a typo. Okay, so I'm going to plan an entire campaign around a typo to get people to talk about me. So that's what we're talking about, is trying to identify like what makes your audience want to talk about you.
Mm.
Did you want to go, Jonathan?
Yeah, sure. I'll wait for the next time around. I'm good.
Cool. All right, so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about something that's literally everywhere right now, and that's personal branding, right? I mean, it's everywhere. When you even look at LinkedIn posts, you'll see some LinkedIn user saying, I'm humbled to announce that I blah, 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 whatever, right? But I feel like it's personal branding has gotten really wild lately. I mean, you've got CEOs doing dance challenges, lawyers going viral on TikTok, and dentists becoming bigger than movie stars on Instagram, right? But who would have thought that ever would have taken place? So I know, Jonathan, you have a personal brand. How did you work on like building your personal brand? Are you involved in do you have any TikTok dances we don't know about? I mean, let us know.
I saw Martha Stewart do those dances in that one commercial, and I'm like, I got to get my moves back. It got me motivated. But no, it's funny. I follow a few people on LinkedIn, and I think we can all agree that there are some posts that people post onto LinkedIn about, just want to announce. We can all identify what annoys us and what we enjoy as far as a personal branding post from people that we follow. Me personally, I enjoy when people are, it's back to that authenticity, right? Authenticity comes in twofold. It comes from their personal experience that as a byproduct shows value to the person who's reading it, or you can just tell that person's genuinely offering value. I think that that's a great way to brand yourself. I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm just saying that's what speaks to me. So people who are branding themselves genuinely or telling a personal story authentically that is ultimately giving value, I think that's a great route to go. And that's personally what I'm looking for in a personal brand. So I've taken that to my own business, and I've said to myself, what do people want to hear? A lot of my posts have been about how I grew up as an athlete, what I've been good at, what I've not been good at, lessons that I've learned from when I've been really good in this area, or when I've been a small fish in a big pond in this area. And people have been really receptive to that. But if you place yourself in an industry, or you brand yourself as, the know-all or the best in the industry, I think it works. But from my own experience, I know that I want to see, and I know a lot of people that I've worked with want to see the truth. They want to see the truth. They want to see what you've been through and who you are. That's going to be such a stronger impact than just trying to create this facade that I think so many brands do.
Yeah. And Marcus, I want to hear your take on this, because I know you've helped some people with very large personal brand, right? But what's your biggest takeaway from some of the mistakes that you've seen some people making, or those who've made some like cringe-worthy moments that make you say, no, that wasn't done right?
I think that there's a case study that's currently being created from a guy whose company we've been talking about, Meta and Mr. Zuckerberg, right? And we've all seen kind of the rebrand of Zuckerberg from like this kind of like nerdy, annoying guy. And now he's into MMA and everybody's like, why does he keep trying to fight people? Like, that's not who he is. But he's become more relatable, right? And so I think that one thing that I'm always, I say my secret weapon is my younger brother is this 10 years younger than me, a senior at Howard University. And so he knows what's cool, what the kids are talking about. And so what I've always thought is this kind of parallel between like versus respect. As Jonathan's talked about, we really try to follow these subject matter experts, but you don't want to be too cringy. You don't want to be, I think that people have been doing it wrong for so many years. And a lot of entrepreneurs and young people these days are like showing you everything. They show you their entire day from when they wake up in the morning to when they go to bed at night. It's not just a get ready with me video. It's like, here's how I built this company from 0 to 50,000 orders a day. And, some of that you can credit with folks like Mr. Beast, who have really showed that like it's not just the quality of your video. In some ways, it's the quantity. It's like, wow, I respect that you spent 10 hours straight recording this content. I know that you did this because I can see it. And so in my mind, that's some of what people have seen. They've taken kind of the Gary V model of, cool, I'm putting out content every day. I like this guy. Okay, I like hearing him. I resonate with his story, and kind of turned it into like founder-led storytelling is almost like a must these days, right? People identify with the founder sometimes before they identify with the brand.
Yeah. And Deborah, I see you shaking your head over there. And I bet you've seen your fair share of personal branding fails. But what's your advice for someone who wants to build their brand, but is just absolutely terrified on becoming another thought leader cliche?
So I think it's very important that you have to understand how people see you first. A lot of times people are like, my personal brand, this is what I want to be. And yes, you can have a goal of how you want to be seen and achieve that. But what I like to do is I start with a little workshop where you invite, one of your followers or a customer, somebody else in your company with you. If it is a company, if it's just a person, then your spouse or your partner or your neighbor, your kid and stuff. And we go through and we ask a bunch of different questions, and you hear how other people sort of see you and what they're looking for, and what sort of a 360 view of yourself and your current brand. Because whether you like it or not, you're walking every single day, you're emitting a brand. And understanding that actually helps you hone in on, what parts of that do I like? What parts of that do I want to amplify? What parts do I need to rein in? Those types of things, and like really helps you understand a 360 view of yourself and how you can create your brand. If you think about, like we said, a brand like a person, think about when a baby says its first word, it already knows what language it's saying mama or dada in, what they're going to be saying. Like, you understand your audience first. And you understand, you're not going to walk into, a Michelin star restaurant in like your swimsuit, right? You have to know how you're dressing to sort of understand where you want to be. Understanding all of that in your community, and then understanding your own mission, your own personal why or mission or purpose in your brand, and letting that shine out in a way that your audience wants to hear. It creates what I like to call the brand connection guide. Companies don't need brand guides, in my opinion. You can make a logo look like anything you want. You need a brand connection guide. What look is going to connect with my community? What colors are going to connect with my community? What voice and personality is going to connect with my community? And also understanding, is that the actual correct community? Are those actually your people? So listening to your people first is the first step.
Yeah, no, I agree there. I wonder how much of that polished content, very structured content that's aligned with the brand voice is incorporated with actual viral content. Because it seems like anything that's almost the exact opposite of what's in the brand ethos, or the brand guides, goes viral. Does that tell you something about data and analytics, or does it tell you more or less about what people are wanting to consume?
The
Any thoughts about that?
latter. Yeah, it's more about what people want to see and consume. I would say that that company did not have a very, thought out, robust brand guide in a sense. Like what if something different connected with their audience. A lot of the time, it's the same brand voice. It's just said in a different way, in a cute, fun way. That like the one where if you can find the guy who's running with the QR code, you got a free pizza. That went viral. Everybody was running around. Well, the whole point of it was talking about that the pizza delivery guy could go everywhere. So there wasn't even a voice. It was just a delivery guy, and everybody was trying to get the free pizza, but they couldn't catch him because he was going so fast. So you wouldn't even think that it's talking in the right voice, but it's saying the brand message in a different way. Sort of like how Pepsi did the thing with pizza, how they stalked pizza delivery guys to go with the Pepsi to try to really hone down that Pepsi goes with pizza, right? And it was hilarious. It was absolutely hilarious. I love the video. They were stalking pizza guys everywhere, and you could tell that it was planned. It wasn't as authentic. Like you could totally tell that these were not real Ring cameras that were videoing.
They had good actors.
They had some good actors in there, and it didn't really sound like the Pepsi voice because it looked like a stalker crazy person, but in the actuality you understood it's a very strong personality that comes with Pepsi, and they normally are just very proud to talk about the Pepsi, but it was a different type of brand pride. It was like, yeah, we go here, and but they were doing it in a very cheeky way. It's still the same brand voice, but it was talking to a different audience. It's okay to talk different ways to the different audiences as long as you're still authentic to your brand purpose.
If I can jump in there, yeah, I think Deborah's really onto something because I think something that we're talking about is like how to be good at social media and marketing in general versus like virality. And so a lot of what we're talking about are like good best practices. Like you should have a brand tone of voice. And if you keep everything in that brand tone of voice, people will recognize your brand, they will associate it, you will have higher recall, and thus people will consume you more. I think some of the things that we're talking about even are like the 180 of that, right? You have something like, where Super Bowl was 2 days ago, you saw Kendrick Lamar, and they had this viral moment a couple weeks ago when he said mustard, and Heinz got DJ Mustard a gold chain. That's very anti-Heinz. Like that's something that on their social media calendar they had no room for getting a chain associated with Kendrick Lamar. But they're quick, right? They're being reactive, and so I think that's a big part of what brands can do to help go viral is by listening. And then what Deborah's been saying is like, if that's part of your brand, Wendy's is known for clapping back on Twitter. So when they clap back at somebody, we know Duolingo is going to do something crazy. So when Duolingo does something crazy with BBL Drizzy, like we're like, okay, yeah, makes sense. I get it. It's funny. And so what Deborah's saying is like, you once you hone in on your brand voice, you can kind of establish these like bumpers, like you're bowling. And as long as you're within that, you're good.
No, absolutely. And I also feel as organizations need to prepare their teams or structure their teams to be responsive in these types of moments, right? To leverage these social trends to help them become viral. Obviously, you have to have someone that's listening to the pulse of content that resonates with the target audience. Heinz is a great example of that, giving DJ Mustard a chain. And when we think about forecasting, you mentioned, Marcus, that it wasn't on Heinz social media calendar to do that. And I think it's a great example of how if organizations are nimble enough with regard to organization and structure, they can react to these types of trends and help them become a viral success, right? But you have to set up the structure. One thing I advise my team on is if there's any event that could possibly go viral, like the Super Bowl, like the Grammys, like the World Series, so on and so forth, what are we doing to prepare from any viral moments that come from those events, right? And so if that's literally having someone man on deck ready to respond, right, as a system, as a structure from a resource, human resource standpoint, budget resource, so on and so forth, organizations have to set up themselves and their teams to leverage a lot of the potential viral moments that come from events, especially that are going to be all over social media. Right. So yeah, that's spot on there. I want to take a pivot and kind of geek out a little bit, but in a fun way, I promise, and really talk about data, right? And not the data from like a boring spreadsheet, but the data that really gives us more insight on whether our campaigns are working or not. And I know, Jonathan, you may have some experience in this that I'd love for you to kind of break it down for us. And when you look at, a viral hit and what numbers actually matter, right? Because I'm sure, we're all obsessed with vanity metrics. Most consumers are, but are likes and shares really telling the whole story? What's your opinion about that, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I think, and I appreciate you introducing me as the spreadsheet guy. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm honored. Uh, when you go to when you go to a post or you go to a campaign and you're looking at the metrics on that campaign, I think it's really important. Like Deborah was speaking to before, is to again look at the shares, but at the same time, don't count your eggs before they hatch. Right? Like when I first started doing paid advertising, or I started to see what was going on with as far as traffic on my posts. I got very excited. I was very elementary with it. I would get very excited at the tens of thousands of view counts that I would get on a post. But you really have to be smart about, okay, who's sharing this? Who's commenting? Is there a call to action on that post? And can I measure that? So you want to look at, and I've really incorporated this more into my business and with my coaches, is everything we do is for conversion. Because once we convert someone, then we can give them a great experience and then they can share with other people. But if we do things that don't equate to conversion, then we're looking at the wrong metrics. So training the people that I work with and training myself to not get too excited about those flashy metrics and get excited about the metrics that actually count is a really important thing to keep in the front of your mind.
Yeah. And I know we have some viewers and listeners who are part of or represent big brands, and they want to make sure that they have data to move forward with their decisions. And then we have our individuals, our small and medium-sized businesses who may be focused on really experience and trusting their gut, right, when making these decisions. But how do we balance the two? I mean, how do we know when to focus more on data versus more or less when to focus on our gut feeling when it comes to the data that we see?
I'll speak to that. Just I think that I know for me personally, when I have our stuff happens seasonal, right? So we know when certain athletic seasons are. We know when we need to push certain posts if certain clinics are coming up. We know when certain children get out of school, depending on their age. So we recognize metrics in that regard, and we recognize which posts are valuable based on timing, and that's how we figure out what's most appropriate. So, Juntae, I hope I answer your question, but that's kind of what kicked in right away for me.
Yeah, and for any of the other members on the panel, was there a time where your instincts sort of kicked in because the data said one thing, but your gut said another? Was there experience that you can share with
All
us?
the time. I mean, and to say we're geeking out, in my opinion, and nowadays it's not geeky to talk about data. I actually have a t-shirt that says Data Diva, and I wear it very, very proudly. It's because this is where we live amongst data every day. But a lot of times when you, for example, if you're doing Google advertising or any other type of advertising and you're talking to the rep and they're like, hey, look at your results. And it's like, ta-da, your results. And you're like, 50% of what I spent on was my own name. Was there anything left on my budget that actually got me new acquisition? I'd say you need to go past that first ta-da and sort of look at the audiences in the data. Like instead of just like, oh, how many views, how many clicks did I have? How many, like Jonathan was saying, what is converting? Like what is causing my conversions? What type of stuff is getting someone to take the call to action that I want? And sometimes it's not who's clicking on the post, it's who's converting from the post. So if you can scrape away everything else and understand which audience was converting, and then you have to forcibly tell the Googles and Metas of the world that I don't want to promote to that, and your sales rep will like say five, because from large companies to enterprise companies always end up having that sales rep that says, no, you want to, and like, no, I don't, and I'm going to cut my marketing budget because of it, because that's the first thing that gets cut is the marketing budget. So you need to make sure that every penny is actually turning into a conversion. And I get laughed at a lot because I don't stop until I'm paying $1 or less per conversion. And I'll have people come to me like, oh no, in this industry, it's normally $20 is the average conversion, and that's normal. I'm like, that's not normal. I was like, what's normal is you need to go behind it, find out who's actually converting, and then we're going to target more of that audience. And then they're like, wow, you got it down to under $1. I'm like, that's what you do. If you
That's how
know
it
who
works.
you're looking, and then find what that other person who was clicking wanted and give them a different type of ad, and then it will be $1 too. $20 just means you're targeting too many people in the same place.
Yeah.
So
I love what Deborah's saying, and I think like she's speaking to the difference between awareness and conversion, right? Top of funnel versus bottom of funnel, where people are actually converting. And different campaigns can have different measures of success. You can want a campaign to just be top of funnel
100%.
awareness. But
Yeah.
when you're looking at conversions, what I'm always really fond of is kind of dialing down into your customer, right? And so when you can figure out some of that customer segmentation, and Jonathan, you're right, this is something that is really for bigger brands. It's smaller brands don't have money to do some of these consumer focus panels and focus groups. But when you have that customer segmentation, I'm really fond of finding that kind of movable middle. The people that sometimes do buy, but sometimes don't, and then figuring out, okay, how do I talk to them? Is it a mom that's a head of household with a couple kids? Is it a specific, ethnicity group that like actually does consume kind of more than normal? And how do you do specific activations? And then to bring it all back to what Jonathan's saying, then you look at your calendar and you say, well, I know that we're going to activate for the Olympics this summer, but coming up this fall, we have a little bit of room to play with. Is there something that target audience is going to be at, that they're going to be focused on, that I can put some money behind and really get behind? And that is another recipe for success.
Hmm.
Let's talk about trends, right? And we're not just talking about like whatever dance challenge is breaking TikTok this week, right? We're more or less looking at what most brands are jumping on and how they're actually leveraging these trends in order to help amplify some of their messages, right? And I know, Marcus, you've worked with many brands. How do you go about spotting what the next big trend is going to be before it becomes a big thing?
I think this is where social listening and being part of the zeitgeist and really having your ear to the ground. I touched on the Keith Lee example. The second example is a collaboration I did with a company called Mischief. And Mischief is kind of like famous for going viral. They had the big red boots a couple of years ago, and they've just done a lot of stunts in this realm. And so I was sitting in my office in New York City at the time, worked for Dos Toros, and HQ Trivia, if you guys remember that, was like captivating my audience, my office. Everybody would stop what they're doing every day at lunch and say, "Oh my God, we have to answer these questions for HQ Trivia." And so I'm kind of the opposite from Deborah, like with the kind of creative focus. I'm like, I can take any brand that I'm working with and make it relevant to this other thing. And so we created this app called Burrito Time, where once a day you would get a push notification to your phone, and the first 10 people to open that push notification would get a free burrito. That's it. That was the whole app. And it went crazy. It was on Forbes and Adweek and Food and Wine, and it kind of was part of that like press cycle. And we were at the time, I think, working with F Jerry, and so we had a way to get this to more consumers. But it was something I don't know, like 10,000 downloads in the first week or whatever it was. But right, like it was this idea of like this is something that everybody else is focused on. The kind of crux of the idea is that there's this random push notification and you're going to drop everything that you're doing and do this thing. And then how do you make that for your own brand, right? What is the thing that you can give away that's not going to break the bank? You don't have to go out and get a Ferrari because we don't have Mr. Beast money. But what's the thing that you can do for your own brand? And so was my example.
That's awesome.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. And so, Deborah, I see you got that look over there like you got a story about this as well.
I mean, there's all different types of trends. Like I was working with one celebrity chef once, and we were doing like our own top chef at a food show, right? So we had this whole food competition set up. We had all these stars coming up, but it was during the time when that mannequin trend was going on. If you guys remember,
Mannequin challenge?
the
The mannequin
mannequin
challenge.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you had to stand still like a mannequin for a certain amount of time. So in the middle of the Top Chef type competition. We had every contestant and there was pots bubbling, there were things sizzling, but they all had to stand still like mannequins for the mannequin challenge. What it did because we used that hashtag opened up a different audience, right? It was cute. It was within the realm of the celebrity chef. It was in her wheelhouse to do some things that are fun, right? So it was okay. And we ended up having all of these other influencers who also then reposted it, the fact that they were part of a mannequin challenge. And it was hilarious because there was pots bubbling over like while in this timed event when we made everybody freeze. So like you can find ways to take something that has a popular hashtag that people are looking at and being a part of. And we just got new eyes on the people who were involved, a different set of eyes, but it still went back towards their mission and like showing that they were doing a cooking show. They weren't just freezing being mannequins next to a staircase. Like we did it inside what means to that brand. And that's how we made it ours.
Yeah. I mean, and those are all great stories about the success of going viral. But let's get real for a minute, right? Going viral isn't always a dream come true, especially that, people may think it may be, but sometimes it's more like not as beneficial, or sometimes there are instances where, want to go viral until they do go viral. Then they're like, I don't know if I ever wanted this. And I know, Marcus, you've seen probably both sides of the coins there. So tell us about a time when a client went viral, and did it actually cause some problems? Give us some insight there.
I don't want to shame anybody, and so I won't use names, but I always say the there needs to be there. Restaurants, for example. You've seen this with Keith Lee. To go back to the example I said, he shouts out to your restaurant. You are so excited. You have this line before you open, but your register is slow. Your POS is slow. Your throughput's awful. And as a result, the person who's 50th in line gets a way worse product than you intended to give them. And then they're posting that they hate this place and they're never coming back. And you've now gone from a point of like tremendous customer acquisition to like you've lost a customer and you would have to spend maybe 5x to ever win them back. So the cheapest customers that you have are the cheapest customers require the ones you don't want to lose. But I just always say there has to be the there. You see people that go viral and then people dig up their Twitter history and they've said some things that they didn't want to go viral for, And so you have to make sure that your business is ready for the attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So next up, we have our segment that everyone loves. It's the segment called Bad, Bold, or Brilliant. And this is where I'm going to provide you guys with 3 examinations of campaigns. And I would like to know your opinion. Is it bad? Is it bold? Or is it brilliant? All right. You guys ready? All right.
Yeah.
So the first one is the most recent campaign, Carl's Jr. Hangover Burger campaign, right? You guys may have seen that in the Super Bowl ad, but it's essentially where Carl's Jr. reintroduced its provocative advertising style with a social media campaign featuring the influencer Alex Early promoting her new hangover burger, right? And it really blended nostalgia with humor. It targeted Gen Z on platforms like Instagram and TikTok. But do you think this campaign was bad, bold, or brilliant? And why?
I can come from the food space on that one. I said it's actually brilliant. Starbucks did something similar to where they gave away a free cup of coffee the next day after the big game. People underestimate the power of a small free. Like 7-Eleven started it with free Slurpees, and then you've got National Donut Day with the donuts. In the food world, you can't be afraid of a small free, because people come in for that. And yes, there's going to be people who just get the free and leave, but there's also people who are buying a drink, buying a bigger burger, going back there the next time because now they've tasted the burger. The goal of a restaurant is to get the product in a mouth and to get the yummy, recognition. So the next time they have that hangover, they're going to be like, oh, I need that burger. Or just, I'm craving a burger. Oh, I remember tasting that hangover burger. So they've crossed the first hurdle in restaurant, which is get the food in the mouth, right? And so people are going to come and try it, and they were prepared for it. That's what makes it brilliant. They knew they were going to be giving away their free burgers. They made sure they had enough stock of it, not like when all of a sudden Popeye's chicken became viral and they were totally not prepared and you were getting subpar sandwiches and they all ran out. They went through 3 months supply in 1 week. You had to wait 2 more months for the next time that you could try the chicken burger, the chicken sandwich again. So Hardy,
But,
Carl's Jr.,
was that
Hardy.
a part of the campaign though? I'm wondering, like, was that intentional
Oh, for the Popeyes or for
for
the
Popeyes?
Carl's Jr.?
For Popeyes. I've always
Popeyes,
wondered that.
that actually, no, it was because Popeye's chicken sandwich was giving Chick-fil-A a run for their money. And Chick-fil-A on Twitter did a ad very similar to the Popeyes, like talking about like, hey, lo, we are the best in the sense, in no uncertain terms. And all Popeye did was like retweet it and say, you okay? Like literally like 2 words, but they said it in language like their customer. They're like, y'all good? Which is the way that they would talk. They're not saying, are you guys okay today? No, y'all good is literally like speaking to my customer in the same language, showing I'm with you. And I think somebody thinks that we're encroaching on their space. And it just opened up a world to people who would normally have been everybody needed to try this sandwich that could rival the master of Chick-fil-A. I remember I couldn't even turn into my own street. I'm like calling my husband. I'm like, why can't I make a right onto our street? Because there's a Popeyes a half a block from my house. And it was like backed up. I was in the Popeyes drive-in line and I didn't even realize it when I was just trying to go home. Like it just... And then you look in, you see some videos, and this is how you know it wasn't planned, because you see the video of the one Popeyes employee like sitting on the upside down pickle barrel going, nope, I did not sign up for this. This is not. If it was planned, the entire restaurant would have been on point. They would have had their building structure, like Carl's Jr. is going to be ready. They know how to make the burger. They've gotten down to the science of doing it in less than a minute. They're going to get it out. And as Marcus said earlier, it's going to be a good brand experience for the person receiving it. The fact that you have a video of one Popeyes employee just sitting on the pickle barrel going, you knew that this was not planned. This was like, and they ran out of stock for 2 months. Like no one's going to plan to run out of stock for 2 months.
And leaving money on the table. To Juntae's point, though, it does fuel, right? Scarcity principle is a real thing. And so when you see that something is well liked and people have it and you don't have it, you then want it. So it did help them, right? It helped sustain the momentum of this thing. But to Deborah's point, I do not think that was planned. That was the happy accident for them, made their whole year, was like, it's like a 10-year case study.
They had like millions of dollars of earned media from the, y'all good? It was great. It was great.
Awesome. All right. So any other comments about that, or should we move on to the next examination? You can move on. All right.
You're the
Okay.
leader.
The next examination is Brooke Shields' beauty campaign. So actress Brooke Shields led a social media campaign redefining beauty standards for older women. The campaign utilizes platforms such as Instagram and Facebook to share empowering messages and authentic content, really challenging the traditional beauty narratives and resonating with a diverse audience. So that generated some virality there. But what are your thoughts? Was this a bad, bold, or brilliant campaign? Not all at once here.
I don't have much to say about this one. I didn't see it, and I'm probably not the target audience. My hair isn't what it used to be.
I don't think it was that. I mean, the fact that none of us are really talking about it probably shows it as bad. I actually heard more about it. Her talking about her book and her talking about it is how I heard about it, not through the campaign itself. So we didn't have as much advocacy there as she wanted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how about this examination? You guys may know the Doritos Crash the Super Bowl revival. So Doritos brought back its Crash Super Bowl campaign, encouraging fans to create and share their own commercials on social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok. And this user-generated content approach engaged consumers directly, leading to widespread sharings and discussions online. So do you think this campaign was bad, bold, or brilliant?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think anytime you can get, like Marcus was saying earlier, anything you can get with user generated content, and you can teach the audience how to then, leverage the audience and teach them how to then promote your product, I think is great. When we see, existing brands or even new brands, when we see people using it on social media, we're automatically borrowing new audiences, and I think it's brilliant.
I think it's bold
Totally.
because you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes the fact that they're allowing them to just upload, directly, you have to be very secure in your brand and or have a lot of policemen there watching. So it's a bold move, but I can kind of say it could move more towards brilliant just because they've done it before. So it's like I've got a little bit of experience. Last time though it wasn't as user generated. It was like you had to submit through a whole thing when they did it, and I loved some of those. They've always still been some of my favorite Super Bowl commercials of all times. But it's a bold move of theirs.
Yeah, I'll say brilliant for Doritos, but for most brands, probably just bold. I think it's always great to solicit, and something that I tell my clients is like if you're the brand, like one of the things that you can do is shine a spotlight on smaller creators and smaller members of your community because they will appreciate that. They will repost it, they will reshare it, et cetera, et cetera. But I saw a couple, there was one this year, speaking of hair from the barber shop, where the guy has like Doritos crumbs on his finger and he tilts the guy back and he like licks his finger and it blew up in like seven of my group chats. People are like, yo, have you seen this? This is hilarious. And part of it is around this singular community and kind of the black barbershop. Another one is a real brand truth, which is you get that Dorito crumb dust everywhere. And the third is just kind of the shock value of like, oh, I can't believe he just did that. So I thought it was brilliant and helpful for them. I know they've done it for the last couple of years. So another job well done.
Yeah, and I agree. Anytime you can get users activated, because everyone is a content creator, right? It seems like, and so giving them opportunity to create content that's surrounding your brand is always a win. Obviously, you can choose the right ones to showcase, but I would say that is also a brilliant campaign as well. All right. So now it's time for everybody's other favorite segment. It's tools that you cannot live without. So this could be a tool, this could be a tactic, this could be a hack, but any tool that you cannot live without. So I want to start with you, Marcus. So what tool what's your go-to tool for either spotting trends before they explode or tools that you use in your everyday professional life that'll give more value for the listeners?
I think the tool or tactic that I would use or kind of highlight something I was just talking to a client about, which is in this day and age, you should be using influencers as your content creators. And what I mean by that is the type of content that people are consuming, this kind of TikTok format, fast cuts, fast pace, POV style. Like you can hire somebody to do that, but you might as well hire your favorite or an influencer that speaks to your community. Let's just throw out numbers. Get them to make 5 videos. They only post 2, and you can post the other 3 that maybe don't show their face, aren't of them specifically, but in their style. That to me is like a hack. And so it's something that I've been using with more of my clients. And fact of the matter is, with these influencers, you get bang for your buck. You're able to cost out. It's way less for you to pay for 5 videos per video than a one-off. So that's a quick hack.
Yeah. And I also, even to add on to that, if you can't work with the influencer, let's say on YouTube, then run ads against their channel. There you have
That's
it.
awesome.
I'm in it.
That was
I'm
a
in
great
it.
one.
I'm
I've
in
been
it.
pocketing that one. That one's been pocketed. One of my favorite tools is I do remote video capture. I work with this great partner who does remote video capture. So sometimes like I can't create content or whatever. I was able to like get in-store content for 32 different restaurants with everybody using their own iPhone with a remote capture. All we really needed was, the director was in the phone, and then we would edit the video off site, and we would parse it up into different content. And it was like the whole thing cost $500 max, 2,000 for like 100 different little videos. Like it becomes much more economical than sometimes, some of these big budget productions, et cetera. It enables some of the smaller brands to do a commercial at professional quality, not being able to actually hire an actual camera crew to go in. So that is sort of like one of my little secret little things that I'll throw in there because I don't like it when someone's like, "Oh, I can't afford to do a commercial." I'm like, "You can afford to do a commercial. It's not that bad, you know."
Yeah. And what about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think mine's a simple one. Collaboration posts have been extremely beneficial. There's a new, not new, but there's a philosophy I've been taking on for the last couple of years, which has been, and them and bringing up and not looking at other businesses as competition. There's obviously competition in the world, but looking at the people in your space as potential people to collaborate with. We've all been through things in our life, be it certain competitions or athletics or whatever our hobbies were. And I think at those times, whether we were mature for that time in our life, we may have looked at the other people in our space as competitors. But the truth is, we have to get past that and look at them as collaborators. Mm-hmm. Anytime that I've borrowed another person's audience, even if I've had to give a percentage of that revenue to the person I collaborated with, it's still more revenue for our business, and it's still more of an opportunity to give that new customer from another audience an experience of our product. So collaboration has been huge. And the other thing I was going to say was, in my business in particular, when I train younger athletes, they keep me up to date on the new trends, the new platforms, and that's been the things that I'm blind to. They definitely keep me informed. So, and I hear what they're slang sometimes too.
I have 5 kids, and 2 of them are teens, and so they keep me in the. I don't understand what they say sometimes, so it's helpful to learn how people talk.
I get a lot of bra moments, I guess, because I'm getting older.
My daughter tried that once, and I'm like, "No, I am not your bra. I'm your mom."
A lot of bra moments. They're calling you bra. Can you do this? That's great. I love that. I love that.
I'll instruct something else, and it makes me feel old. It's like, oh man, like that's not
That's funny. So yeah, between younger athletes that you're training, younger brothers who are at Howard, and some of your 5 kids, it's like proximity to youth is probably a good hack, right?
Yes.
Well, they're deciding what's cool and what's relevant and how people talk about things, and bringing back baggy pants. I wouldn't have thought that would come back the way it has. And you see these kids that got like Japos on. It's really, it's crazy.
I watched my 17-year-old argue with the 12-year-old about which generation that he's allowed to be in and what he thinks is a generation and what he thinks is cool versus him. And I'm just like, let me just get my notepad real quick. Because they're very much in tune to what their generation should be doing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen, I really enjoyed this conversation. Before we hop off, I want to make sure that everyone listening and viewing this has a chance to know more about you, where they can contact you, how they can possibly engage with you. So, Jonathan, why don't you go first? Let us know where people can contact you and what are you offering?
Yes. So, like I mentioned earlier in the intro, I'm an athletic trainer. I work with athletes of all ages, even to the college level. People could find me on Instagram and YouTube at Next Tier Training. Our tagline is whatever level you're at, there's always a next tier. You could find us at that handle, and our contact information, our booking page, all our terms, everything you could find out about us are under the YouTube, Instagram, and our Calendly link. Website's coming soon, but we're happy to meet new faces, and please reach out to us.
Absolutely. And Marcus, what about you? Where can people engage with you? Where can they contact you? Let us know.
Very similar to Jonathan. The website is coming. I run a brand consultancy called Bird Eye View. Easiest way to find me is my name, Marcus Bird, on LinkedIn or on Instagram at birdeyeview.co. Also, you can just shoot me an email, bird@birdeyeview.co, and we'll get back to you. Working with small, medium to large size brands as fractional CMO services, Swiss Army knife for whatever your customer acquisition needs are.
Awesome. And that's Bird, BYRD, correct?
Oh, thank you. Yes, BYRD. Not Larry, but Donald.
Marcus. Awesome. Deborah, what about you? Where can people get in contact with you? How can they engage? And what are you offering?
Well, the best way to get in contact with me, Deborah Shapiro, is I'm on LinkedIn. Deborah LG Shapiro, that's my middle name. My company's name is S&S Insights, and so we have a website. It's SANS Insights, S and Insights. You can get me DSHAP, DSHAP at sansinsights.com. But honestly, just remember hello at sansinsights.com. You'll get us that way too. But hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active in terms of like DMs and that kind of stuff.
Awesome. And I am Juntae DeLane, the host with the most here at the Brand Behavior Podcast, also founder, CEO of Digital DeLane. And if you're loving this conversation, you want more behind the scenes insights about digital marketing, digital branding, and really find what actually works, come hang out, digitaldelane.com. We're not just another marketing agency, but we are the folks who help brands find their voice and make noise online. So come check us out at digitaldelane.com/podcast. where we keep it real and keep it relevant. Man, that was an absolute ride. Thank you all for hanging out with us today on the Brand Behavior. And if you've enjoyed this episode half as much as I have, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, bonus points if it's funny, all right? And share this with anyone who needs to hear it. And remember, going viral isn't about luck. It's about strategy, storytelling, and sometimes just being brave enough to be yourself online. Until next time, keep it real, keep it authentic, and maybe we'll be talking about your viral moment in our next episode. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.